Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back. So today is to talk about the weak links on the Traxxas 1/16 scale Mini Revo or MERV. So I've had this thing for a little while now, and I've done a lot of beating on this thing. I've been jumping in it. I've been, really lacing on the throttle, popping wheelies, all that stuff. And so far very impressed because I haven't managed to damage a diff yet. However, I have the brushed version, okay, which I was hoping, and I was right, it's a lot more durable with a brushed system for the diffs than the brushless would have been. Now I had the Summit VXL 1/16 scale, and I was just always blowing diffs, and just eating up the ring gear and the pinion gear on the diffs like crazy. And so I really wasn't too happy with that truck. Although I am going to buy another one and then just convert it to brushed. Now that I know this hangs together, there's no reason why the Summit VXL shouldn't when it's been converted to brushed. And I really like the brush system. This is a car where you don't really want or need 50, 60 miles an hour out of the little thing. Of course, some people might, but I really don't think that it's a kind of car where you really need that kind of power. It is a fun machine, but out of the box the gearing does kind of suck a little bit for speed. And I've been playing with different gearing ratios so I could still do a lot of speed and bash without blowing my motor temps too high. And so I found the perfect solution is actually my 31 tooth pinion that actually came with my Bandit. And so I'm running a 31 tooth pinion in this with the stock 52 spur, and it seems to be still very fast, pop wheelies on demand, and I can beat the living snot out of this thing on the throttle, and my motor temps barely even come up at all. And so that's pretty decent, okay? But there are weak links to this truck, and the first major weak link I found on this was the stock suspension was horrible. I had to put like virtually all the preload onto the back shocks just to keep the rear end up a little bit, and it was still sagged really bad, and it was still very, very spongy, which I didn't like, and that is very bad if you're going to jump this thing. Even just off my small ramps that I have, it didn't like it, okay? So I upgraded to the Summit VXL suspension because it has much longer springs and stiffer springs than the stock Revo. And I'm going to show you the stock Revo spring so you can get an idea of what I'm talking about here. Now this is a stock Revo spring with all the preload off. Okay, and as you can see, you got a really sloppy spring in there. And all four of them are exactly the same way. Okay, so when you put some preload on here, things appear to feel a little stiff, because in the fingers that actually does feel stiff. But when it's on the car, it ain't so stiff. And I literally had to have this thing compressed in like this on the rear end. And that allowed for very little travel. And even though it feels stiffer, believe me, it still isn't that stiff when it's actually on the car with the car's weight on it. Okay, and it allowed for extreme little amounts of travel. So if you took a jump, this would compress and pop really fast, and it didn't allow any real recoil to it on the suspension, okay? So it was very bad. So it still didn't keep the rear end up even half nice. But when you take all that preload off and the piston is out all the way, look at that slop. That's just terrible. And these are the black springs, okay? What comes with the Summit VXL are blue springs, so they are longer and they are stiffer springs. And I've hardly got any preload at all on the front, and it's really nice. The back end, I've got just a little bit of preload on the back, like just a little bit more than what it is up front here. And it's still got a bit of sponge to it, still a little soft. So I am going to add just a hair bit more preload, probably a couple turns each, and it'll be absolutely wonderful, okay? This would be an ideal suspension setup for the MERV. Now, as far as jumping goes, I probably still wouldn't suggest taking jumps much more than, say, double the height of my ramps. My ramps are roughly about 7 inches maybe. So I probably wouldn't go off a ramp that's more than 10 to 14 inches tall. And do it on grass. Don't be jumping, hitting the concrete, because that's when stuff really goes bad. Now, I've had quite a few cartwheels with this thing too, which was amazing because this thing only has one servo, even though it can use two. And I'm going to be upgrading to the 2 servo setup because I want faster, stronger steering response, and the 2 servos will actually accomplish that. But even the stock single servo seems to be very adequate for this car, and like I said, I've taken a lot of cartwheels end over end, and I've not done any damage. The Summit, on the other hand, was a little bit different beast, a little bit more heavier because of the tires and everything. And that required both servos, and because I did actually blow a servo when that thing stripped the gears. But since I went to the doubles on it, it never had a problem. But my buddy has that truck now because, like I said, I got tired of replacing diffs. And but I am going to get another one, and I'm going to detune it to brushed. And then this way I can still have a big Summit and a little Summit, and eventually I'm going to get a brushless 110 e-Revo eventually, because I really want that one. I may or may not go for the brushless version of the Mini. If I do, then I'm not even going to run it until I get all metal bulkheads installed and everything, because otherwise you're into shimming the diffs and stuff. And I just want to beat on it and not have to worry about it for a long time. But with this truck, it runs quite fast. With the gearing I have set up, it's very fast, and it's durable. The diffs are holding together well. So weak link, definitely the suspension needs to be upgraded to the Summit VXL suspension. It is a different suspension, 100%, okay? The other weak link is going to be the same as what I said on my review, even on the Summit VXL, is these plastic bars. These are non-adjustable, even for your steering, non-adjustable. So when you want to try and get some precision steering set up, it ain't going to happen. Not with these bars. Okay, so you're going to want to get adjustable turnbuckle bars for your steering and your push rods. Okay, because the other weak link in these rods is they use a plastic press fit bushing in there in each rod, and they do it all the way around. And what happens is these things will wear over time, and they do wear out quite quickly in comparison to anything else, because all metal, of course, will not wear out very easily. It'll in fact last you for years, as long as you don't bend any rods from wipeouts. But the plastic ones, they do wear out quite quickly, I found. So having some of those on hand as spares is a good idea until you upgrade to the metal ones that are also adjustable, because you want to be able to get as precision adjustability as possible. The other thing that's a weak link on this truck, but they do last for quite a while, is your axle carriers. Now the bearings are great. The bearings will last for a long time, but these axle carriers are actually a weak link because there's no adjuster screws to create more tension on the balls. Okay, so you're kind of left with whatever it is, and then as they wear, and they do wear, it gets really sloppy and your angle gets messed up, and you'd think you're blowing bearings and you're not. It's not your bearings, it's your axle carriers generally, and that makes for very lousy driving experiences with time. So buying a bunch of these spares so you can afford metal ones might be a good idea. And you can get metal ones that are non-adjust set, or you can get metal ones that are fully adjustable for tension. Because if you look at like the 110 Revo and the Traxxas Summit 110, okay, these will have adjuster screws for tension, okay, that you can adjust, and that actually creates a lot of extra lifetime as time goes on. For you to be able to use even the stock axle carriers on those vehicles. So why Traxxas wouldn't do something like that with this, I don't know. Maybe they didn't think they could pull it off, but I'm sure they could. But they didn't, and that's fine, because there's upgrade parts out there. We don't always have to shop at Traxxas for our stuff, that's for sure. Even though Traxxas does do some really amazing, even aftermarket stuff. Would be, aftermarket would be, non-stock stuff. There are a lot of other solutions out there that are, equally as good or better. So, yeah, that's another thing that would be considered to be a bit of a weak link. But initially, no. So can you just take this out of the box and start beating the snot out of it? You gotcha. You can do it. no problem. Now I run 2 6-cell nickel methyl hydrate packs in this vehicle with the parallel Y adapter, because you can only run either a 2S LiPo setup, or you can run the nickel methyl hydrate pack that's included, but you can run 2 because you have 2 battery compartments. Now, I don't think that there would be a problem running 2 2S LiPos in parallel, because your voltage is staying the same, but you are increasing your milliamp runtime, and your discharge rates will also double, okay, which is going to give you a lot of play time. Now, the one thing with a brushed motor, of course, is if you go too long of a play time on a brushed motor, you will overheat and cook your motor. It doesn't matter who makes the motor, you know, and so that's one thing to be aware of when running, you know, in parallel setup with lots of excessive runtime. Now, with the 2 batteries that are NIM packs, you get one with the truck. I bought a second one for now, and that gives me a total of about 2,400 milliamps of power between the 2 of them, running them in parallel. You cannot run them in series, okay? So series connection doubles your voltage, and you will cook your ESC as soon as you turn it on. So, but you can run 2 batteries in parallel. I just have not tried 2 cells in parallel for LiPo yet. I will when I get my LiPos for this thing. LiPos are going to give you a lot longer runtime. You can sit them on the shelf longer before they even think about losing power. Whereas with the NIM packs, we know throughout history they've always sucked, because as soon as you take them off the charger, you have to still let them cool down for about an hour, because they get warm when they charge. So you got to let them cool off before using them right away. And you do need to use them within the same day, because the next day you're going to notice a voltage drop. Okay, even 2-3 days later, you know, and up to 2 weeks later or more, you could have like almost no power left in them. So that's not a cool thing with NIM packs. So I don't know why people still want to run NIMs, but I mean, I'm doing it for now just because I can't afford the LiPos right now. Okay, I have other priorities, and so I don't mind running the NIMs, and I just peak them out. You know, every couple of days I'll actually peak them whether I'm using them or not, just to keep them secure. Because if a NIM pack sits too long as a dead NIM pack, it can actually reverse its own power, and good luck getting that straightened out. So yeah, but at least NIM packs are a lot, you know, better than LiPos for the safety feature for people who are not aware of, you know, how to properly care for and maintain LiPos. That's fine, but anyway, so I would definitely recommend second servo upgrade. I would recommend going to all metal turnbuckles that give you adjustability, so you can have more precise setup. I would recommend going with third-party metal adjustability axle carriers on this thing. You know, those are the main things I would be concerned about myself, and this would make it an even more rugged machine. The A-arms, I've yet to break an A-arm even when I have my Summit VXL. I've heard of people breaking A-arms on these things, but they obviously did something extremely stupid and caused the damage. I have not personally yet had problems with my VXL that I had, nor have I had any problems with this, and this thing's taken some hard hits and no damage, so that's awesome. Definitely would recommend getting the Traxxas Wheelie Bar, or a Wheelie Bar, for this machine. It's definitely going to come in handy, because then you can actually do proper wheelies, you know. And do upgrade your pinion. The stock pinion, this truck is not near as fast as they say it is out of the box. Of course, I found that out with the Telluride too, with its stock setup. But if you want any speed out of this thing as a brushed machine, definitely upgrade that pinion. Now, like I said, I'm running a 31 tooth pinion. It's 48 pitch. With the stock 48 pitch 50 tooth spur. Now, you can get metal spurs that are up to 54 pitch for 54 teeth for this. Intigi does carry them, so you can get those if you want to go a few extra teeth. But you got to watch, because you only got so much playroom too with your motor mount sliding for gearing. You know, the biggest pinion I've been able to jam in this thing so far was a Robinson Racing 37 tooth pinion, and this thing just screamed, you know, for speed. However, you know, wheelies weren't as friendly. You know, it took a little bit more to get a wheelie going. But then when it came into the bashing side of things, I actually did not get as much bash time on it for before my motor temps came up than I do with the 31. So a 6-tooth drop, I'm leaving this combination exactly the way it is, because I know I can beat the snot out of this on any surface, you know, and not worry about overheating my motor or my speed controller either. So that's kind of cool. And this thing, this will stay, actually, I've decided finally this will stay brushed. I may buy the brushless version, but when I do, like I said, it has never seen the throttle until I put in metal bulkheads front and back and made sure that there's absolutely no play whatsoever in the diffs or in the pinions for the diff, because I don't want to get into another nightmare of replacing diffs all the time. That just drove me mental, you know, and it really hurt the wallet. So yeah, but there are other upgrades too that you can do to this that are optional, you know, but you know, like you could go to metal shafts, you could go to, you know, you can metalize every part of this thing, or get carbon fiber parts if you want. It really doesn't matter. But the serious links that are the problem are what I've mentioned, okay, that really do need to be paid attention to, you know, and as long as you take care of that, leave the rest of it the way it is, and away you go, you know. So anyways, guys, that's pretty much covers it. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you in the next video.